Avatar: The Last Airbender. Does it get any better than that? To be clear, I'm talking about the animated series rather than the movie. The best part, the characters. My favorite of them by far was Sokka. He's just simply the best. That's why today we're going to be looking at the top 10 reasons why Sokka is the best. Best what, you may ask? Best Avatar character? Best animated protagonist? Whatever, he's just the best. Look at that creepy, non-blinking stare substituting for emoting. Look at that complete lack of humor, a supposed defining characteristic of the role he's actually attempting to portray. But hey, he's got the boomerang and the ponytail, so that's good enough to adequately encapsulate the character of Sokka, right? Great job, M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong. The actor, Jackson Rathbone, got a much-deserved Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Supporting Actor. I wish I'd have seen him in something other than this or his Twilight stint, because then I could say, don't blame the actor, he's reasonably competent in his other work, so it must be the director's fault. This excuse is otherwise known as the Hayden Christensen. Sokka generally favors discretion over heroically charging in. Sometimes it comes off as comedic cowardice, but really it's an attitude born from pragmatism and rational caution. He's not one to stick his nose into other people's business and tends not to take risks without doing some serious planning. This abundance of caution has saved Team Avatar many times on their journey. Such maturity is unusual in young warriors and often is found only in veterans who have experienced the harsh realities of combat and know that trying to find glory in war is a sucker's bet. This is Sokka's most obvious character trait. He's the goof, he's the joker, he's not afraid to look uncool or silly if it gets people laughing. Not only is his humor a major part of why the show is so beloved, but it serves a vital function to Team Avatar. They're essentially a group of children on the run, constantly being thrown into life or death situations. Aang literally has the weight of the world on his shoulders. Not literally, but you know what I'm saying. It's called comic relief because it relieves tension. Without Sokka being all dorky and fantastic all the time, the team would have been unable to function for very long. The best part of Sokka's humor is this. Usually, his primary audience is himself. He doesn't care how bad his jokes are or how silly he looks, as long as he's amusing himself. Actually, wait, no. The best thing about his humor is when he comes up with the name Sparky Sparky Boom Man, but then it's the primary audience thing. A final point. His humor keeps the Avatar humble. Sokka never hesitates to tear into the mighty Avatar, taking his ego down a few notches whenever Aang starts getting a big head. Also, Aang, when all is said and done, he's a little boy. He needs someone to pal around with. Some of the best moments on the show are when Sokka and Aang are being giant goofballs. I'd like to pause the list here briefly just to mention that it would really help us out if you remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing. And now, back to the countdown. Like any virile hetero young warrior, Sokka loves the ladies. He's right at that age of adolescence where damn near every waking thought is about the opposite sex. So yes, he frequently gets his head turned, but this doesn't stop him from learning about real relationships. His first love, Princess Yue, the princess of the Northern Water Tribe, it was a brief but powerful relationship. Then, of course, she flew off and became the deity of the moon, as will happen. He later got involved with Suki, a young Kyoshi warrior. Sokka managed to pull some pretty impressive ladies. This just goes to show how attractive a sense of humor is. You can see a lot of Sokka's character development in his relationship with women throughout the story. Initially, his misogynistic beliefs cause friction with Suki and gets his ass kicked by her. He's able later to admit that he was wrong and ends up learning a great deal about hand-to-hand fighting and other combat from a skilled Kyoshi warrior. Speaking of growth and development throughout the story, this list item deals with Sokka's character arc. Avatar is a very character-driven story, and all of the main characters undergo impressive changes by the end. This is by far one of the best aspects of the series. Many individual facets of Sokka's character arc will be covered in items appearing later on this list, but here I'd like to just acknowledge his overall growth. He starts out as kind of a wimpy rural blowhard with antiquated views of women and very little life experience outside of his tiny water tribe village. His experiences on Team Avatar led him to a much, much grander life. One example of this, after Aang and Zuko formed the United Republic of Nations, Sokka went on to become the representative for the Southern Water Tribe on the United Republic Council, as well as eventually becoming chairman of the entire council. Growing up as a male in the Southern Water Tribe, Sokka received warrior training and became proficient in a variety of weapons, the most noticeable, of course, being his trademark boomerang, eventually earning him the nickname Captain Boomerang. Other proficiencies include clubs, bladed weapons like the machete and the sword, as well as spears. Eventually on their journeys, Sokka got to feeling like he wasn't contributing enough to Team Avatar in their frequent combat situations, and also that he was missing out on cool character skills development B-stories. He decided to learn the art of swordsmanship under the tutelage of the Fire Nation swordmaster Pian Dao. Though this instruction lasted like a few days or maybe weeks? As we'll cover later on in this list, Sokka is notably adept at picking up complex things quickly. Also, it's an episodic show, so they had to wrap that side plot up before the half hour ended. At the conclusion of Sokka's tutelage, Pian Dao stated that Sokka possessed the traits that one day could make him an even greater swordsman than he himself was. Sokka also received training from some of the best hand-to-hand fighters in their world. After meeting the Kyoshi warriors and promptly pissing them off by laughing at the idea of girl warriors, he met Suki and she thoroughly humiliated him in melee combat. Sokka showed some impressive character development, as discussed earlier, by eventually humbling himself and requesting to be trained by her. In a reasonably short period of time, Sokka improved enough to be able to physically defend himself from Suki, as well as becoming competent enough to dodge Ty Lee's attacks, which, if you're familiar with Ty Lee, you'll know how impressive that is. Although Sokka's most in-your-face character trait is, of course, his sense of humor, Sokka's most vital and powerful talent is his creativeness and his intelligence. Throughout the story, he shows an amazing facility for tactics, planning, and invention. As mentioned earlier, his ability to quickly absorb and process complex tasks is outright remarkable. Further, he has the natural-born curiosity that is often played for goofs in the show, but is actually one of the core traits of a scientist or an inventor. Here's a list of Sokka's notable creative accomplishments. After Ty Lee chi-blocked both of Sokka's hands and legs, Sokka did not give up and used his head to fight, quite literally. It was he who figured out and used the astronomy set in the Great Library to figure out the day of the solar eclipse. He conceived of and designed submarines and helped create the first hot air balloon in the entire world. He was adept at creating weapons from a variety of materials and learned how to construct amateur explosives from his father, which he once used to simulate firebending. For instance, Sokka used trickery and optical illusions to help his sister Katara fake the ability to earthbend. Most plans that Team Avatar came up with were really all Sokka. This strategic intelligence extended further later in the series when he began orchestrating logistics and maneuvers for entire armies. Team Avatar was called Team Avatar for a reason. Aang was the entire reason for their quest. He absolutely was the soul of the team, but Aang was not the head. Sokka had the honor to be the team leader. As an unpowered human among a group of element benders, Sokka was often overshadowed by the mystical abilities of his friends. Despite this, it was Sokka who usually devised the plans, gathered intelligence including maps and data, navigated, and ultimately made the final decisions. One could assume this was due to Sokka being the oldest and most outspoken of the team, but actually, as we covered before, it was because the role of team leader suited his talents. Later in the story, even large groups of veteran, experienced warriors would follow him, not by virtue of Sokka being the son of the chief, but due to his natural leadership ability. Sokka frequently teases and otherwise makes Katara's life hell. The very first scene of the show has Sokka and Katara bickering. In fact, a misogynistic comment from Sokka pisses Katara off so much that she breaks an iceberg, thus inadvertently freeing the Avatar from his century-long imprisonment in ice. So one could say it was only because Sokka was being such an ass that the story really could happen at all. I would say this is just him fulfilling the duties of an older sibling. But as seen on the show, he's actually fiercely protective of his little sister. In Season 1, when Aang, attempting to practice firebending, accidentally burns Katara's hands, Sokka furiously leaped to her defense, so much so that he almost abandoned Aang and their quest altogether. Later on, we see how well Sokka actually understands his sister. After Toph and Katara had another one of their many frequent arguments, it was Sokka who explained what kind of person his sister truly was. He told Toph about how she meant well, even though her maternal tendencies could be kind of annoying sometimes. So Sokka was able to bridge the gap between Toph and Katara through his understanding of his sister. In the world Sokka lives in, element benders are the movers and shakers. They lead the armies, they fight the battles, they usually run the governments. The unpowered normies, they're more likely to fill the roles of random peasants, lower-rung functionaries, or cannon fodder in the armies. On Team Avatar, Sokka is the only non-bender. Not only is this challenging for him, but a great number of people they fight are benders as well. Despite this, Sokka does not take a backseat when it comes to combat, planning, or decision-making. In the early part of their journey, these skills may have been a bit underdeveloped in Sokka, but he recognized this problem and dedicated himself to improving. By the end of the story, he was a talented leader, a veteran warrior, and a true force to be reckoned with. And that's why Sokka is the best. And that does it for our video today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and please remember to take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.